Hello there, Crop and Create delivered card making friends. My name is Meghann Andrew, and I'm excited to be here with you today. Some of you may be new to stamping and die cutting, and in this short video, I'd like to give you some tips on things you should know when you're just starting out trying out these two new techniques. Or even if you're a seasoned stamper or die cutter, you might learn a thing or two in this video. Most of the stamps we use these days are clear acrylic stamps and they come on a clear backing like this. What's great about them is that you can see exactly where you're placing them. We use acrylic blocks to put these stamps on. And the type of acrylic block you prefer is very personal. I personally love the ones from close to my heart. I always use an eraser to prime my stamps first, and this just helps you to get off some of the oils and residue that might be there from manufacturing. No matter what type of ink you're using, and your Crop and Create instructors will talk to you more about ink choices, you want to make sure you get a nice even layer of ink across your stamp, and holding your stamp up against a white background is a great way to see if you are missing any parts of your ink. There are two things that are going to give you a great stamped image, and those are even pressure on your acrylic block. So you don't want to rock the block, no rocking the block. You just want to put a nice even pressure. And you also want to have a surface below your paper that gives a little bit. In my case, I use an old paper piercing mat from American Crafts. It's almost like a mouse pad, but there are lots of different foam mats out there on the market that you can purchase and use here. One great thing about clear stamps is that you can see exactly where things are placed. So combining two different sentiments here is really easy to do. Once you're done with your stamps, it's very important that you go ahead and get those cleaned off. I like to use a chamois. This one is from Lawn Fawn, which we love. And you can also purchase different stamp cleaners and stamp mats from other companies just to clean your stamps in between use. Now, instead of acrylic blocks, you can also use stamp platforms. There are several out here on the market, but I have one from We Are Memory Keepers here. Stamp platforms allow you to stamp multiple times in the same exact place. So if you don't get a great stamped image the first time, you can just ink up your stamp again and try it again. So you place your stamp where you want it to be placed on your paper. Then you line up the top, sticking your stamp on. And then the difference with this is you actually take your ink pad to the stamp surface instead of the other way around. So I'm going to ink up the stamp here and then place the top back on the guidelines so that I can stamp on my paper. Stamping platforms also give you a nice even pressure across your stamp, so you usually get a really great stamped image the first time. When you are finished with your stamps, be sure to put them back on their sheets right away because it's really difficult to find those clear stamps once you misplace them. Here I've grabbed the Beautiful Blossoms stamp set from Scrapbook and Cards today, and I'm just going to ink this up using some scrapbook.com black dye ink. I'm rubbing it all over with my eraser first, and I'm using my stamp platform. And you'll see here that it was a great decision for me to keep my stamp platform out to use it here. So once I line up my guidelines, I place that down using nice even pressure, but sometimes something happens and not everything gets inked up. So with a platform, it's really easy for you to re-ink that and place it down again. So that's the basics of stamping. Let's move on to die cutting. This is a die cutting machine. Mine here is the Revolution by We Are Memory Keepers, and it's a manual machine, which means that you have to turn a crank. You have platforms, and every manufacturer will tell you exactly how to sandwich their own platforms so that you can either emboss or die cut. Die cutting machines use force with the wafer thin dies to cut into paper. So that's why you always create some kind of a sandwich. So you need to get the right thickness so that your die will cut through your paper. I have a magnetic mat, but if you don't, use washi tape to hold your die in place wherever you want it to be placed on your paper. When you run it through, don't worry about the cracking sound. That's a normal sound for die cutting. If that makes you nervous, you'll get used to it. Using a spatula is an easy way to take your die off of your mat, and there are tiny holes in your die to help you get the cardstock out if it gets stuck. Don't forget that you can always use those offcuts too. When you combine stamps and dies, that's where magic really happens. So remember the beautiful blossom stamp I used before? It also has a matching die, saving me from fussy cutting. There are really so many amazingly creative ways to use stamping and die cutting on your projects. And if you're new to either of these techniques, just have fun with it. You'll learn so much by creating along the way. And you're going to be taught by some amazing instructors in the industry to give you even more tips and tricks. Have so much fun stamping and die cutting during your Crop and Create delivered card making event, friends.